Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 10. We made it, right, last week. I hope everybody is doing well. I'm filming this video from our nation's capital. I'm up here for a conference this week. Um, so, yeah, it's going to be a short video today. We're just kind of wrapping things up a bit. I posted the reading for this week. It's an excerpt from John Rawls' Theory of Justice. Um, and Rawls has an interesting account, right, that you guys are going to read about. And the idea behind Rawls' sense of justice as opposed to Plato's sense of justice, or it's certainly more in keeping with Jefferson and Lincoln's sense of justice, as Rawls is an American. But his sense of justice is justice as fairness, right? It's what's fair to everybody. So remember, with Plato, we were looking at Thrasymachus, and according to Thrasymachus, justice was simply, whatever's better for the person who's the strongest. Might makes right. For Jefferson and Lincoln, it was this notion that we all have certain God-given rights, and justice means that those rights have to be honored, right? And in order for a government to be legitimate and just, it has to ensure that everybody is receiving those equal rights that they're entitled to. And Rawls goes even a bit farther, right? And he does another thought experiment similar to sort of the state of nature stuff that Hobbes and Locke do, where he says, imagine that you and a group of, people you don't know, right, are marooned on a desert island. This is why I wanted you guys to watch the show Utopia this week. I've heard some people are having trouble accessing it, so if you can't get to it, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal, but it just sort of replicates what Rawls is talking about to a degree. Imagine there's this group of people. Let's say there are 10 people on a desert island, right? And you all have to come together and you have to agree on what are going to be the principles of justice in your society. But the challenging part, and this is sort of Rawls' innovation, is you don't know what segment of society you're going to occupy, right? So you don't know whether you're going to be a man, you don't know whether you're going to be a woman, you don't know whether you're going to be black, you don't know whether you're going to be white, you don't know whether you're going to be rich, you don't know whether you're going to be poor. So you have no idea what your status in that society is going to be, right? And Rawls calls this principle the veil of ignorance. Imagine you're coming from a veil of ignorance regarding your place in the society. And then Rawls believes if you go from that starting point, you're going to arrive at principles of justice within that society that are going to be the most equitable, because it's in your self-interest to ensure that your needs and your rights are going to be respected, right? So that's how Rawls gets to his most famous maxim taken from this veil of ignorance and justice is called the difference principle. And essentially the idea is that you're trying to choose whatever principle is going to minimize the differences, between who gets what. And in cases where there are competing sort of principles, you always choose the one that actually benefits the person who's going to be lower in society, right? So, and he thinks that's the way to ensure that you don't run into a situation where the majority or the strong are in fact overriding the weak. So that's Rawls, right, in a nutshell. I mean, there's a lot more to Rawls than that. But that's the basic idea, and you guys are going to read about that hopefully this week. Don't forget that you have your paper due as well. The paper's due on Friday. I want you to submit it online through Turnitin. If anybody has any questions or any problems about that, let me know. I know a few people have sent me a draft. I'm going to try to get to those over the next couple of days. Things are a bit crazy right now, but I'm going to get to them as soon as I can. And let's see. So yeah, so just a basic recap of the course, right? We kind of looked at three major things, right? So the first was the state of nature. What has motivated man to leave his natural state and join into some sort of political community? And we saw that there were lots of explanations for that. Well, according to Hobbes, it was, fear, right? And, trying to get out of this nasty state of war where we're in constant fear of whether we're going to die or not, and we can't have any commerce, and we can't do any of these things because we're always watching our back, right? So we need somebody, the sovereign, the Leviathan, to protect us, right? Locke, similar, the state of nature is a dangerous place, but for Locke, rather than it being pure fear, it's based on this this notion of property, right, and protection of property. And then with Rousseau, it's trying to escape from this sort of inequitable place that we've landed based on, how he tells his historical tale of how we've gotten to this place where agriculture and technology and all these things have kind of warped our society, in competition for resources. So Locke thinks that we need to try to come up with a new plan so we can make things better, right? And that's where he gets to this notion of the general will and things like that as a solution to the natural state of mankind. So first, why do we join political communities at all? Second is, how do we do it, right? And that's the question of the social contract, right? So, we have all these different perspectives regarding the social contract. We have Hobbes's, ideas that, the sovereign cannot be disobeyed and the sovereign must have ultimate authority, right? Otherwise the social contract is broken. So sort of it's not a dictatorship, but kind of, right? You have Locke, right, where he's talking about the key to the social contract is consent, right? And something we didn't read from Locke regarding the notion of the social contract are the laws of nature, right? And of course, the first law of nature is this property law, where you're protecting yourself and your property. And the second part of that, which Locke also thinks is important, is the fact that we should look out for one another, right? So that's another important part of the social contract. And then Rousseau, we get this very weird Borg-like general will where every individual wants what's best for the group, right? And there's no sort of dissension from that, and we're forced to be free in that way, right? And then this last question is the question of justice, right? So why do we leave the state of nature? How do we do it? And finally, what does it look like when we do it? How do we ensure that it's better than the state of nature? And everybody has slightly different perspectives on what justice should look like within a society. And you have this notion from Plato through Thrasymachus that maybe it's the case that it's just the stronger. It's whatever's better for the stronger. Right? That's how justice works. The person that's in power decides what's right, what's just. Right? Because really, what that is saying is that there is no absolute conception of justice, right? It's relative to whoever's in power. And then we have, the theory of justice that we see in the Declaration of Independence and the Gettysburg Address, where we're talking about we have these certain inalienable rights, and anytime those rights are violated, there's an injustice that's being done. So the just government is the one that recognizes and upholds those rights. And then finally we have Rawls, Rawls' conception of justice. This idea of justice as fairness and justice as, minimizing the differences between people in society. So he has a very egalitarian, if you guys aren't familiar with that word, it just means sort of making things as equal as possible. So he has a very egalitarian understanding of the way society should work, which some people may call socialism, but that's not actually what it is. Anyway, that's basically the course. Make sure to submit your paper, your papers to me. If you need, you want to talk political theory, you want to talk film, you need a letter of recommendation, anything like that, shoot me an email. I'd be more than happy to chat with you and help you out. So hope you guys have a great rest of the summer and rest of your college career. If there's anything I can do to help you, please let me know.